Everybody, so glad to see you today for our management committee meeting on March 12th, 2025. We have a quorum, all members present actually, which is awesome. And so with that, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Everybody's had it in advance, you've had a chance to see it. Are there any changes, additions, subtractions, anything? All right, then without objection, it is approved and we'll move on. We then have our February 26th draft management committee meeting minutes. Everyone again has had a chance to review those in advance. Any changes, edits, corrections, anything? All right, then seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the draft minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Lilligren, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Osmond. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed no, and that passes unanimously. We have several items today on our non-consent business part of our agenda. We've got reports from standing committees. The first item is 2025-50. It is a joint committee meeting and it's the first quarter carryover budget amendment. And we'll have our Director of Budget, Stuart McMullen, give us the report today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Stuart McMullen. I'm the Budget Director here at the Council. Ed Petrie, the Finance Director at Metro Transit, is also here and could answer any questions you might have on business item 2025-50 JT, the 2025 first quarter and carry forward amendment. It includes changes to the 2025 operating budget in regional administration, community development, and transportation, and changes to the capital budget in community development and transportation. It was reviewed and approved by the Transportation Committee last Monday, March 10th, and will go to the Community Development Committee next week on Monday, March 17th. Notable changes to the operating budget. First, in regional administration, carries forward from 2024 4 items previously allocated for equity grants totaling $1 million. It carries forward the amounts remaining from the funds set aside in 2023 and 2024 for the BPSI project, Business Process Systems Integration, and $533.4 thousand for funds set aside to support the telephone and video conferencing infrastructure here at the Council. It adds 3 FTEs to the 2025 budget in RA Finance to support the increasing demands of the General Ledger, Accounts Payable, and Accounts Receivable teams. In community development, it carries forward funds needed to complete the work in the Climate Action Plan, Imagine 250 development, fair housing, and the art and policy community engagement work authorized in the 2024 budget, and the transfer of $300,000 for capital improvements on Council's HRA-owned properties. In transportation, the amendment adds 119 FTEs to the operating budget to support the Network Now initiative and the transfer of $24 million in MVES funds to the capital budget to partially support the purchase of 98 replacement buses. Switching to the capital budget, this amendment includes again the purchase of 98 replacement buses for delivery at Metro Transit in 2026 and the purchase of 22 expansion buses to support the Network Now initiative. It reclassifies $10 million in state funding for the Blue Line Extension project from the capital budget to the operating budget. It adds $16.5 million for rail maintenance and track work projects on the Blue Line. It adds $5.8 million for new transit information software, and adds $2 million in MTS for the purchase of 530 routers. The individual projects and their changes are outlined in the attached tables 9 and 11. So therefore, Madam Chair, the motion is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the 2025 unified budget as amended and in accordance with the attached tables.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions at all? All right, then seeing none, we have the motion as recommended by staff that the Metropolitan Council authorizes the 2025 unified budget as amended and in accordance with the attached tables. Is there a motion?
Movable.
Moved by Osmond, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Cedarberg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you very much for being here. That was a lot of work in a short amount of time. Well done, everybody. Appreciate all the staff that have worked on all of this and bringing it forward today. Our next item is 2025-74. It's Enterprise Asset Management Systems, software and implementation. We've got contract 23P221 before us, and we've got Sue Haug, our Deputy Chief Information Officer. We've got Sam Paskey, Assistant General Manager, and Kristen Thompson, our Director Asset Management with us today. So thank you, all of you, for being here, and I'll turn it over to you for your presentation.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. Just want to say that Sam, Kristen, and I are beyond excited to be here today because this is like many years in the making.
Yes.
So just wanted to point that out. So the Enterprise Asset Management System, let me get to the next slide. There we go. The asset management project is actually a bigger part of a bigger program called Business Process System Integration Program. And before COVID, it was determined that 2 legacy asset management systems needed to be replaced. But rather than look at the 2 systems individually, we decided to take an enterprise approach to asset management at the council. And we titled the program Business Process for a reason, because one of the main objectives is to establish clear, consistent, and standardized practices that meet the needs of the entire council, of all the business needs, and also to deliver, implement, and integrate the technology systems that support these processes. Again, big on processes. So the AIMS project, which we're going to be talking about today, is just part of the bigger BPSI program. Now the program itself is made up of 6 different projects. We'll talk about AIMS today, but I will just briefly describe what the other projects are. One of them is called Enterprise Procure to Pay. And currently we have 6 different systems that do the whole procurement process. And so this project is to consolidate all the processes into one system, into PeopleSoft. And so we're excited about this coming. The next project is called Enterprise Time and Attendance, and this is about consolidating our timekeeping systems and also our absence management into one system, PeopleSoft, again about consolidating processes and having better standards around timekeeping and absence management. The next project is called Enterprise Application Integration, and this is making sure we have the technology to be able to integrate data between all the different systems in BPSI, which will be the new AIMS system that we're going to be purchasing, as well as PeopleSoft and the other systems that interact data within PeopleSoft as well. There's another project called BPSI TX-based functionality. And so TX-based is essentially a homegrown system. And so over the years, we've built other functionality into TX-based that aren't necessarily asset management. We're hoping that the asset management system can take care of most of the functionality, but there is some that we know that won't. So this project is to determine what we're going to do with that other functionality. And then the last project is operational reporting. And this is making sure that we get all the information, reports, dashboards, information we need out of both the AIMS system and out of PeopleSoft as well. So just a few quick highlights about what we've been working on in this program over the last year. We are now moving toward implementation, which is very exciting. So in the last year, we hired a program manager to oversee the 6 projects, along with several other project managers. But one thing I want to note here is part of this, all these projects, is its enormous change to the organization. And so we identified the need for professional organizational change help. So we hired a organizational change program manager. We have a organizational change project manager for some of these changes as well. And this is what happens a lot. This is going to help us as we help our staff navigate the change. And then we came to you actually last July to procure an implementation partner to help us with the two PeopleSoft projects, the enterprise procure to pay and the time and attendance projects. And in those projects, we've done a lot of work in gathering requirements, in planning. And one of the things I really wanted to say is that throughout the projects that we've been working on, it's honestly been a true collaboration with the entire council. And I mean the entire council. I mean, there's been people from every single division. We've had 125, like current state, where are we at now? What are our requirements? Where do we want to go? And we've engaged over 400 people from all levels around the council to get their input into where we want to go. Because this is a huge change. We've had these systems for 25 years. And so now we are excited because we are completing the RFP process for the enterprise asset management system. And I'm going to be turning it over to Sam, but what I can say is we can come back later for a more in-depth explanation and presentation about what's happening with the BPSI program as a whole.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. I'm going to speak a little bit about what this system does. The Enterprise Asset Management Solution or system supports how the Met Council manages the assets that deliver services to the region and that our frontline workers rely on every day in order to do their jobs. Picture here of one of our technicians working on some critical electronic technology. In Met Council lingo right now, the assets can mean a lot of things. We were talking about wastewater treatment systems, light rail lines, cars, buses, the stops, garages, facilities, pipes, lift stations, on, even software is an asset. When we talk about an EAMS or an enterprise asset management system, we are not just talking about the technology, and Sue's highlighted how the people are at the center of this solution. So it's a tool, but it's also the processes we use to interact with each other and make sure the right work is getting done at the right time to serve the public. And then the people are the heart of that. So we're going to talk a little bit high level just about asset management at the council. We have a policy, just important to reference here, FM 8-1, about managing regional assets. It underscores how we need to be accountable and be good stewards of those resources and those assets and use best practices. And that is part of what Sue shared and what Kristen will share more about, how we're applying best practices and some of the newer ways of thinking to be more effective and more efficient with what the public trusts us with. It's all aimed at meeting the levels of service that the public and our communities that we work with count on us to provide every day without fail. This is a pretty cool slide. It took us a while to dig into this information because you might say, well, what are you talking about? How much is in this thing? How many assets do we have? And it depends on how you slice and dice them, but we have a lot, over 100,000 managed assets. In environmental services, it's thousands of each kind of asset, whether it's a structure or a valve or a pump. In Metro Transit, again, thousands of individual assets. And the things that we manage in this technology aren't just those assets, but the parts they're made up of. As if you need a new wheel or a new power supply or a new controller, somebody has to know where it is or if it needs to be ordered and if it's available, and then the crew has to go out and know it's ready. And it's a lot of coordination to make sure we can handle all that work and get it done on time. It's 1,000 people plus managing their daily activities in this tool, 250,000 annual work orders. I can't even do the math of how many a day that is, but our people are busy, and this tool is how they make sure that they're getting that work done. It all goes through this system. Millions and millions of dollars of expenditures too, with the parts that have a financial cost, with labor hours that we then track against what we own to make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry to pause you in your presentation here, Sam, but so those 1,000 employees that do this work, are they? I'm guessing they're not called asset managers, but what are their positions, or is asset management part of the work they're doing and integrated into a larger sort of workflow?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. They would be operators,
Sure.
mechanics, pipe fitters, bus maintenance, you'll have to help me understand the right term.
Technicians, yes.
But bus maintenance technicians, almost anybody on the front lines who is managing tools to fix things or implement things. Work orders can even apply to contractors and the contract work that we authorize as well.
Cool, great, thanks,
Great question, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super glad we got a question on this one, because this is
It's pretty cool.
like, this is where the magic happens.
And I do have to tell you, I love the by the numbers slides we get here, because
Oh,
this will probably be something I print off and throw in my briefcase, so thank you
Fantastic.
for that.
Fantastic.
It's important.
And then my next line is, if that weren't enough, what are all those things that happen? And this is just a short list, and I think it answers the prior question of who are the
Sure.
people and what are the things they're doing in there? And I won't read these off, but it's regulatory required activities that we have to make sure we do. How would you do that without a system to do that in? And it's just tracking the maintenance that we do and the planning of future maintenance that we should do to keep our assets in a state of good repair. And using that information to make decisions about cost-benefit trade-offs, that's all in this system. There isn't another replacement for what that tool does. However, we have two duplicative systems right now that do the same thing. They're custom fit to their purpose, so they're great for what we do, but they can't be upgraded. They are at end of life. There is not an upgrade path for them. There perhaps could be re-implementation, but in order to do a better job of managing the council's investments, we want to implement one solution that can meet the needs of everybody instead of two separate solutions that cost twice as much and probably cost even more to maintain separately. So we're making that enterprise decision with this business item. And the hope is, going down the list of bullets, is to back up from that duplicative solution to take advantage of common functionality that all of our divisions can use with the flexibility to meet specific business needs. That's been an important consideration all along, because we do have very different business needs at the end of the day. Managing a light rail line is very different from managing a lift station. And the tool that we have selected has the ability to help us be consistent, but also flexible for the end users, because they are the most important part of this equation. That's a process question as well, where we can align our processes and create consistency for that one tool. And what we're really excited about is the ability to get data out of the system now. With multiple systems, it is probably impossible to get a single view of how we're doing. We're pretty excited about being able to bolt reporting onto a single solution that we've had very, as Sue mentioned, meetings to define what do we want to get out of the system, and now we've done that. And we can then get the reporting out that we'll need to make good decisions going forward. Lastly, these older tools, when they were implemented, and I'm gonna say decades ago, because that's not an exaggeration, they didn't have good connectivity to mobile technology or GIS systems. And our people, when they're working in the field, they're working spatially in geographies where they need to know what's around me and how do I interact with that using mobile and on a map. And the new technology will support that business need. So that is all I've got. I will pass everything to Kristen.
All right, thank you. I'm going to bring us home here and share a little bit more about the specifics of the project, what we've been working on over the past few years, and then go into our proposed action today. So Sam just highlighted all the challenges that we're facing. The project that we've been working through is really intended to address those challenges. Through this project, we are replacing those two legacy systems, TXBase and WAM, with a single modern enterprise platform. So the core functionality of this tool, as we've talked about, is really to manage our asset-related work. That's that 250,000 work orders a year. There's a lot of kind of ancillary processes that relate to that. And so that'll be the day-to-day technology that our people are using to manage our assets. But as we've talked about, having a system that crosses the enterprise will really level up our abilities to do planning and decision making using sort of a single tool and the data that's in it as the basis for that. We've talked about those 1,000 employees whose tasks are managed in the existing legacy systems. those employees are hungry for a better tool. The new system will be much easier to work in. It will have greater capabilities that meet our needs today, including that mobile access with a modern interface. So it's just a huge step forward in terms of giving our employees tools that they can use effectively to do their work. And it's a big step forward for how the council is going to be going about our business. Because we're gonna have this council-wide view of our assets, we'll be able to improve our decision-making processes, have more consistent and aligned processes and reporting across the council. We are closing the door here, coming to the end of phase 2 of this project. We've been working over the last couple of years to gather the requirements, all the business needs that the system needs to meet. You know, we talked about who are all the different people using this system. Well, they're actually represented in, you know, I would say over a dozen work groups across the council, maybe 20 work groups even. And so we have been really deliberate about how we engage across the council to hear what people's needs are and ensure that we're writing requirements so that the system will meet them. Now with this proposed action today, we're going to be pivoting into an implementation mode. There's a lot of technical activities that will happen during that time, you know, configuration, data migration, go live planning. But I want to emphasize there's a lot of change for our people coming during that phase as well. And the project is planning on, you know, making sure we have the training in place, the communication in place so that people have the information that they need to be successful in the new system. We've talked about the fact that this project is not just about technology, it's really about improving how we do asset management. So to that end, we've had a consultant on board for the last couple of years to kind of guide us through this project and be our partner. And they have supported us through these project activities, which are designed to help us really improve what we're doing so that we can fully leverage the new tool once it is here for us. One example that is recent is at the end of January, we had an asset management certification course that was a week long. We had 25 people from across the council take that course, and they're able to get certified now by taking a test. Over the course of the past year, a major activity, of course, has been going through this procurement process to identify the software solution and implementation vendor for the new system. I hope you've heard today a thread of collaboration and inclusion for this work. We've really tried hard to take a thoughtful process. Nobody wants a new system imposed upon them. They want to be part of developing it so that it meets their needs. So we've been working really hard to do that. We want to understand not just the current needs, but the vision for the future that all these different work groups have so that we can care for our assets as our system is growing and changing. And again, making sure that everyone's set up for success when we do go forward with the new system. Beyond the life of this project, we're also planning for how the system will be governed and supported going forward in the long term so that we don't find ourselves back in this position, 25 years from now, but that we're able to, have processes that help us ensure that the tool continues to meet our needs going forward.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Is it okay if I ask questions?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, yeah, okay, thank you. So this prompted a couple questions, and one of them I jotted down earlier, and Kristen, I think you were just kind of hitting on this, and I come from municipal government before this, and was when a lot of technology is being implemented, and of course, every division or department or function wanted their solution, right? And so ended up kind of where the council is today as well, and now needing to integrate solutions. So I think this is really exciting, and I appreciate the excitement that you bring here, but my question was sort of, is everyone as excited, or, and I think you were just talking on this, but I mean, I get it, it means that there may be some delayed solutions or things, but I'm just wondering if you could comment kind of on just the general attitude across the enterprise toward this work.
Madam Chair and council members, our experience is that people are very excited for this to happen. If anything, the complaint I get is that it's not happening fast enough. I think naturally there's concerns that, this is a really big undertaking and we're doing a lot of other things at the council too. So there's a little bit of apprehension just about the lift. But I think moving forward and having the clarity going forward that we can say, hey, this is our system, this is our partner, we're ready to go now. I think people are going to be lining up to help.
Cool, thanks. And even in my day job, I run a little nonprofit, a little over $2 million a year nonprofit. And we went through a similar exercise of integrating all of our systems just this last year, even at that scale. It was a lot of work, right? So I can only imagine, and I really appreciate your and the people who have been working with you. And my other question was about the certification class and the 25 folks who went through it. Now they're eligible for certification. And so what are the professional benefits to the individuals of being certified in asset management?
Yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, Madam Chair and Council Member. So one of the parts of our council policy on asset management is it lays out kind of where we should seek guidance on asset management best practices. There's an ISO standard related to asset management, and there's also an organization called the Institute of Asset Management that has they're sort of international organization that issue standards and guidance and have kind of frameworks and models. And it's that organization, the IAM, that has this certification curriculum. So we had a trainer through our consultant that kind of led us through the standard curriculum. When I say they're eligible to be certified, is they need to take a test in order to get that certification. There's value in the education either way, and I think all of our candidates expected to take the test. We just haven't gotten all the I's dotted and T's crossed yet. But it is a recognized certification. They can put it on their resumes. Sure. It'll help them as they advance in their careers.
So it's a portable certification. Cool, thanks.
I just have to add, we at the Chamber of Commerce did on a very small scale the same thing. Data conversion, new systems, new website, rebranded, a whole shebang. And we were ready to pull our hair out and we're tiny. So I'm super thrilled and this is great. And thank you, great questions. Because change is wonderful if it's wonderful, and for some people change no matter what is hard. So we get that. Thank you, yeah. So any other questions right now? Or let's keep going. Yeah.
All right, well that has led us to just a little more information about the RFP process. We issued the RFP back in April last year with a MCIP goal of 7%. We had 67 plan holders, 26 of whom identified as minority, veteran, small and disadvantaged enterprises. And in May, we received 10 of those proposals to be evaluated. We went through that evaluation process and then brought the top ranked vendors in to present a demonstration. And then through that evaluation process, that has led us to the vendor that we're recommending today for the action. Which leads me to our proposed action, which is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 23T221 with 21 Tech LLC to provide consulting services for the implementation of Hexagon EAM with software licensing and support in an amount not to exceed $7,826,252.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Cedarberg.
Thank you. My question is on the budget and the contract. And I too have been involved with small, medium, and large transfers. And I've never seen anybody who's stuck to a budget in any of these. It's been consistent change order. Somebody now has prescribed something new, something's gone back. And we're talking about a fairly large organization. So I know it says not to exceed, but I'm sure there's things in the contract on if things change, there could be change orders. And I'm just hoping that this is really tightly managed, and I'm sure it will be. I have a lot of confidence. But these can go off the rails rather quickly because of people asking for things to be a lot more detail put in and more functionality, all of those things. So I'm just, having lived through it 3 different times, there hasn't been one that hasn't been a lot of change orders and a lot of management and a lot of cost overruns. So just fair warning, and I'm sure you guys are gonna do a great job. I know Jody's got it under control, but just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, address that, because it is, I think, worthy of, what systems do you have in place, and then, again, not to exceed, so, should there be any changes that are found necessary, can you, manage that within the not to exceed, or will it come back to us in chunks where we can amend things, or how will that work?
Sure. Madam Chair, Council Member, great question, Because it is true, in fact, when you do these huge endeavors, there typically is, there is a statistic out there from Gardner that said, 70% of ERP projects fail, right? And I feel so far we have done what we can to mitigate the risks. And so the biggest risk, I think, is one, not understanding what the scope is. 2, not understanding what the change is going to be. And 3, not having the committed staff in place. So we do have a project manager, we have a program manager, we have a change consultant. So we have the project management staff, not just one, but several, to have a close, very close oversight of this contract. The other thing I want to say that we did, that helped us, is we did actually bring in a third-party vendor, Gardner, to help with the negotiations. And they have done literally thousands of these contracts. They've even done contracts with Hexagon. And so they're the ones who helped guide us on the contract itself and making sure that we did get a fair price as well.
Just if I could do a follow-up.
Sure.
And I appreciate those comments because I think when things went off the rail was when Scope Creep came in and it's like, oh, but wouldn't that be nice? Oh, but this, oh, but that. It's like, oh yeah, however, so that's exactly correct. It's when everybody got in and said, we can enlarge the scope and it's went haywire.
And Madam Chair and Council Member, that is correct. And one of the things is, like I said, we've been working on this for years. So we've literally spent the last couple of years gathering our requirements and having another sort of owner's agent to help us along the way. So I think that will also help with our scope creep as well, or other things that could lead to change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I can add, Madam Chair, committee members, as Sue said, this has been going on for years. What we did years ago, because it literally was years ago, of the 70%, the people that failed, we actually brought in other organizations that have been through this process, and we really tapped into what they experienced to get some of the lessons learned from that. That helped build out where we're at today.
Great.
Thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Councilmember Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very excited for this too, so I think this is great. So my question is, like, I know especially in transit world, we have a lot of reports we have to submit, state of good repairs, various things that are related to a lot of those assets. And I just see where this could be an opportunity. I'm assuming that a lot of those are pretty labor intensive right now versus what should be a little more automated eventually. And is there a way to build almost a case study? Because I think it's important sometimes when we invest in infrastructure like this to be able to say, but this is what we're saving, And is there a way to kind of do that as to show why some of this kind of investment is important?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Councilmember, that's a good question. You're absolutely right that the processes today to gather that information are not smooth. There's a lot of pulling things together from a spreadsheet over here and a database over here. So this transition will certainly help support that to be a lot easier. And to your point about understanding, the investments that we're making in our assets, again, we'll be able to do that with a much more comprehensive view and much more accuracy with this new system. We're kind of excited to learn from, transit peers, how they have leveraged, this kind of implementation as well, and can kind of borrow from their toolbox as we go forward.
Yeah, great question. Anything else? I just have Councilmember Pacheco, did you want to say something? Go ahead. Yeah.
Madam Chair, members, will there be an opportunity for us to get trained in some of this? I gotta tell you, I've been asked about the AI and I said, no, I'm still using KIDS. It's my kids, they don't.
Well, Chair and Councilmember, yes, if there are opportunities to bring council members into this work, we will look for those and continue.
I'm serious, I'd like to need some help there.
Yeah. Sure, staff's very excited about that. And I would just assume too that there'll be a register along the way of things that are working how they're supposed to, or maybe things that we're finding, either way, are things that are working exceptionally well. Something a lot when users are getting into it and testing and all of that, just because you've done such a good job, I think, of bringing, everybody into it and managing and getting their comments along the way too, obviously are gonna be part of the system and the process, so, yeah, okay. All right, Seeing nothing else, then again, we do have before us staff's recommendation that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 23P221 with 21 Tech LLC to provide consulting services for the implementation of Hexagon EAM with software licensing and support in the amount not to exceed $7,826,252. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Councilmember Lilligren moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Barber. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. And that passes unanimously, so thank you. We just tell everybody,
Thank you.
we're super excited, very supportive, thrilled with all the time that's been invested in this and your process that you've put in place, so congratulations to all of you.
Thank you for the support.
All right, now we are going to move on to item 2025-75. This is Microsoft Enterprise Licensing and Cloud Renewal Contract 25P051, and we've got Gretchen White, our Chief Information Officer. Great to see you again, Gretchen.
Thank you. Madam Chair and council members I'm here today to talk about a 3-year proposal to renew our Microsoft licensing. And the total of that contract would be $32,500,000. Microsoft is a key component of our technology ecosystem, just like other organizations. And their family of products can be very complex when it comes to licensing. So strategically this year, procurement and IS, we engaged in independent local third-party resources to help us so that we understand what we have previously purchased, are we using it, and then to understand, project our future needs. In addition, they assisted us with negotiating best price and making sure that the reseller here, SHI, that we knew what value-added services would be available to us and that we leveraged those. So when you think about Microsoft, I'm sure something comes to each of you in your own minds, right? So when we think about Microsoft here at the council, we think about the user facing products, and then we think about our internal system products that you don't see or hear about, but are very necessary for us to manage the council systems. So from the user facing, you have email, you have your office products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. We also, our internal intranet site is hosted on SharePoint, one of their platforms, and it is our primary collaboration tool. In addition to that, there's communication that's used for Teams, for chat, calls, meetings. And then you get to the more skilled workers, and we have application development tools in this for the users. We have reporting and analytics tools that are necessary for the skilled users. So that is your user view. Internally, we have operating systems that we need for our laptops and servers, identity management. I'm sure you've heard of Active Directory, now they call it Entra. And then we have database systems that store the data that our applications need. And last but certainly not least is that they provide us our cloud services with Azure. So that's our stack of providing the data centers, servers, storage backup and monitoring needed. Again, the value-added services that we would be receiving from SHI include things like license management and monitoring of our consumption-based use. Just like us understanding what we need from a technology perspective, when you get the Microsoft invoice, it can be very, very challenging to know what is this I'm paying for. If you remember the old days when you had like 10 cents for every text message and it had a different number, that's what this bill can look like. So one of the things we want to do was work with a value-added reseller that would help us with that piece. So the proposed action today is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P051 with SHI International for Microsoft licenses in support of Windows, Office 365, SharePoint, and Azure cloud services for a total contract amount not to exceed $32,500,000.
Thank you.
Any
All right.
questions?
Questions? Are there any questions? Wow. Oh, and my understanding too is we are heavy cloud users
Yes.
at the Met Council, and maybe more so than we thought we would be at one point.
Yes, so Madam Chair and council members, I was prepared for a cost question. And yes, it is a lot more money.
I just know.
I have
I didn't couch it, so I quite that way, but I
Yeah,
opened the door for you.
So first of all, like,
No, it's a
Thank you,
like
Phil.
we have seen it, regardless if it's Microsoft River, the price of software, it's going up, just like everything else. So we have that basic price increase. We've hired a lot of people at the council, we have skilled workers using more of the tools than in the past. So we have just from that user perspective, that is going up. But the biggest cost is the Azure cloud services. That is over half of the $32 million here, and that is significantly greater than the last contract because we were just starting to use Azure cloud services at that time.
Anything else? All right, okay, as stated.
Madam Chair, I will ask a
Oh,
question. I've been
thank
trying
you.
to, it is a cost question.
It's,
so
yeah, please
you
do.
kind of probably already touched on it, but I'm just wondering, it's a big number, you know,
Yeah.
and I get it, we need this kind of technology to do our work, but I'm just wondering, how do we evaluate the return, right, on that level of an investment? There really isn't comparable, right? We can't say, oh, if we built all of this functionality separately, it would cost us X amount. But I'm just wondering, just because it's such a big number, I'm guessing it could attract attention.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how we
So-
justify that or what the rationale is.
So on the Azure side, part of the justification is that it should and will in the future be easier to have transparency of this particular feature and function costs this much. That's, we're not there yet, but that would be one of the benefits. The other piece is that maintaining and having a qualified data center is very challenging. So we do have some on-premise environments right now. They are in poor condition and have equipment that is more than 10 years old. So there is a risk factor there that by leveraging Azure cloud, you reduce your risk. So you reduce your risk from that physical aspect, but you also, in today's world, you cannot have all the technology expertise that you need for all this. So in essence, you also have a risk reduction there by leveraging Microsoft Azure to be the subject matter experts for that technology, that part of the technology stack. But yes, it's a challenging scenario.
I appreciate it, thanks, Madam Chair.
Great question, thank you. Anything else on this? All right then, did I read it yet? No. The motion is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 25P051 with SHI International for Microsoft licenses and support of Windows, Office 365, SharePoint, and Azure cloud services for a total contract amount not to exceed $32,500,000. Is there a motion? Moved by Barber, is there a second? Seconded by Osmond. Any further questions, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, no. That passes unanimously, so as always, it's great to see you, Gretchen. Thank you for your hard work, you're killing it, and everybody is just A-team around here, so thanks for this, I really do appreciate it. And now we've got another item where we're gonna be looking at 2025-76 Microsoft Unified Support Contract 23P027 Amendment 2. So Gretchen, I'll turn it over to you so you can explain what this is about.
Madam Chair and council members, the Unified Support Contract Amendment that I'm here today to speak about is an agreement directly with Microsoft where they provide us various forms of support. They can provide us support such as access to training, knowledge articles so that our technical teams can go out and see videos, read, learn about how to implement their tools. The other thing is that they provide us break fix assistance. We can submit a general ticket and say, we expected it to do this and it's not. And then most importantly is they will provide system health assessments. And when we have a significant issue, this allows us the path to get professional help from Microsoft within 1 hour to get help to remediate that. So for this, we're asking for an amendment to add dollars to the contract. The other thing about this contract is that similar to consumption with Azure, this is your cost per year is based on the amount of usage, and that's the main reason that we're here for an amendment to this contract. So the proposed action here is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 23P027 Amendment 2 for Microsoft Unified Support Services for a total contract amount not to exceed $769,264.
Thank you. Are there questions? Any questions on this? I think it's really good too that there's internal training and resources for help along the way. Again, from somebody who converted to a new database system, we really worked hard at a system that would also have that internal training through knowledge base. And then we've got the extra support that we needed. And I will just say that staff that has those internal knowledge base that can kind of train themselves or get training are less likely than to call for extra help too, where it starts to,
Yes.
jack up the price, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job. All right, again, I'll just read the motion before us that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 23P027, Amendment 2 for Microsoft's Unified Support Services for a total contract amount not to exceed $769,264. Is there a motion? Moved by Cedarburg, seconded by Osman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no, and that passes unanimously, so thank you. Great to see you. So thanks to your whole team, we appreciate it. We are now on to our last item on our agenda today, which is a much anticipated information item. We are receiving the regional administration's strategic plan, and Phil has been certainly very involved in this with the team. And we have Cassandra with us today, and Gretchen is still with us, which is super cool, to talk about the plan. And everybody should have received in your inbox today, I think it's a one-pager or maybe two-sided one-pager for sure. Okay, and so, and will that did everyone get that?
Yep.
Okay, all right, good.
And slide 6 in the.
Okay, good. Just wanna make sure. Okay, so with that, I'll turn it over to both of you and appreciate it.
Actually, I'll kick it off.
Oh, thank you, Phil.
Chair
Yeah.
Johnson, committee members, thank you very much for that, and I'm glad everyone received that document. It is on page 6, as Councilmember Lilligren said, but it's very small font, so I thought it might be easier if everyone had that as a separate document. But yes, there's a team that put this together. I've talked a little bit about this in various meetings that you probably have heard, but I'm very excited to talk about the strategic plan for regional administration. And we have Cassandra Tabor and Gretchen White here because, as you will see, 2 of the pillars in the strategic plan are workforce and technology, so they have a key part of this. I don't have the clicker, so maybe one of you can control that for the next one. I just wanted to start by talking a little bit about how we got to this point. At regional administration, about a couple of years ago, we sat down and talked, how do we really come together, shared services, what is the plan, what is that vision, how do we put this together to really partner with the operating divisions and actually to provide that service in a unified way where we're consistently talking about the same objectives in a systems-based approach. So the first step in that was to come up with a mission of regional administration, which we've had varying degrees of this over the past few years, but we really haven't had this to this level, with this level of engagement. We had several facilitated discussions that came up with this, and it is simply regional administration provides enterprise services that are aligned with the Met Council's mission. It's simple, but it took several meetings to get to that point, as many mission statements do, so I was very pleased to see that. Then, that's what we do. The next slide, our vision, is where do we want to go? So we go back, so the vision of the regional administration, shared services, we strive to be a trusted strategic partner by delivering integrated, collaborative, efficient, and responsive services. And the next slide gets to the values. This is the way in which we provide that work. So we have the vision. The next step, this was probably about half a year to come to this, and we had a lot of meetings. It was rolled out to, obviously, the directors that worked on it. We talked with the RA managers. We have quarterly meetings with them, and we also brought this out into the RA town hall. So very well received. It put us in a spot as shared services, as the regional administration division, to actually have that target, that goalpost that we were shooting for. The next step was where we're at today is how do we get there? What is the strategy we are going to put in place to actually deliver on that vision? And we came up with 3 pillars workforce, technology, and governance. And you can see the description of each one of those and what we're trying to accomplish as we work towards this. The workforce, create an inclusive work environment that supports employee growth and retention and meets the Met Council's strategic goals. The technology, safe environment, modernized systems, streamlined service. You heard a little bit of that with BPSI. That's been a very long process to get here, but I think it fits well within with the work that's been done. And the governance piece, it generated probably the most discussion, I will say, because that is something that we haven't really had a discussion on at this level. So what we're trying to get to is an enterprise-wide solution to improve transparency, communication, and decision-making. Basically, we want to provide the format with the right people at the table to take council-wide strategy, cross-divisional strategy, and operationalize that so that it makes sense for the operating divisions. And I come back to what we had in place with our incident command structure with COVID. We had our incident command, I was the incident commander during that time, and we had the operations folks from the different divisions there. We had a consistent objective that would come out and we would talk about that objective. But then we had people within the division that would take that and implement what needs to be implemented to actually meet that objective, which was unique to the operating division. So there's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of work that's still going on with that, but it's really to create that environment, to create that process where we can make decisions that are cross-divisional to really operationalize the council-wide strategy. So a lot of good discussion with that, a lot of good groups that have been put together. We continue to tweak that, but that's the third pillar we have. So the next slide is the page 6, the one pager you got. As you can see, very small font, so you have that separate document. But that, working with communications, we came up with this really nice one page. This captures our strategic plan. This captures our mission, vision, values. It captures the 3 pillars and captures what we're focusing on as a division. So I'll turn it over to Cassandra because the next slides get to the workforce pillar.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to share with you a bit of the work that we're doing to bring a holistic approach to the way in which we recruit and fill our positions. So our goal with our unified recruitment strategy is to ensure effective and efficient recruitments by executing the strategic prioritization of hiring across the organization. We're doing that with a tool. There's 2 tools, a unified recruitment plan. We have one for Met Transit and we have one for the remainder of the council. And what this does is it looks to our leadership for them to work together to determine what the shared prioritization of hiring is. To date, we hired based on need per area, and we were competing internally with each other for those prioritization spots, and we weren't looking holistically at the organization. So now with Workforce Task Force, which is our meeting that we do with our Met Transit partners, and then regional administration with the remainder of the division leaders from the organization, we meet, we look at all of the new FTEs that were approved for 2025 and anything left outstanding from 2024. And the leaders work together to prioritize that. They provide that direction to Human Resources, and Human Resources' job now is to execute on that hiring. It's allowed us to pick up on our efficiency and our effectiveness with this recruiting, and it also makes sure that we're holistically looking at the needs as they're impacted across the organization instead of within those individual divisions, so that we're balancing service partners who are here to serve transit, to serve ES, et cetera, across our organization. And really spelling out what the roles are within this plan. So our talent management staff are part of HR. Their job is to execute. They post the positions, they plan the timeline that goes with that, and they work closely with our hiring managers. Our hiring manager's job is to push that work forward, making sure that we're scheduling interviews, we're reviewing applications, and things are moving in a timely manner. Directors, again, inform the prioritization of the roles that we're hiring for. They're also ensuring that our hiring managers, who have a lot of things that they're doing on a daily basis, also continue to move those recruitments forward. And then our division leaders, again, ultimately the decision-making for what's hired and what order falls to our division leaders. And they're ensuring that this process is being followed. This really takes the load off human resources. To date, human resources has been responsible for not only determining prioritization of the entire council, but then moving all of those pieces forward when really their time is best spent actually executing on the recruitment. So in the last year, we've worked closely with Transit on their unified recruitment plan. We're rolling it out for the rest of the council currently. In the last year with the Metro Transit group, we were able to really pick up the efficiency there by allowing talent acquisition specialists to do their job and really leaning heavily on our hiring managers and our directors to move things forward. They did a fantastic job, which allowed us to move through that list much more effectively. So we're excited to see this applied across the council so that we can be wise in the order in which we're recruiting and filling those positions.
I'm gonna give you an update on the IS work plan for 2025, and then I have just a final slide on what we did in 2024. So under the governance pillar, we have a technology oversight committee that started last year. The purpose of that committee is to make sure that the IT priorities align with council strategy and goals. We manage enterprise risk, make sure that what is implemented in the council environment meets standards and practices. Make sure that we're looking and improving technology efforts above a certain threshold, so not purchasing duplicate technology, which can happen in larger organizations. Looking at the operating model to clarify responsibilities. When we talk about operating model, there is technology all over the council. There's technology I would have no idea what it's for, and then there's the technology that I hear about when it doesn't work, right? So one of the things that this committee focuses on is ensuring that roles and responsibilities through that operating model is defined. And then very important has been the strengthening of relationships between IS and divisions. I really feel like we're actually talking about it together and prioritizing together. And so this is our committee membership. We have met, I think, 4 or 5 times now, and I just want to make a call out that Alyssa Haugen in Metro Transit has really partnered with me, and so has Sarah Smith to really help make sure that when I'm coming into the committee, the information is at the right level and that it's beneficial to all committee members. So what goes to this committee? The boulders do. The pebbles, we'll just leave those pebbles alone. Those are routine upgrades, small items, software that's used by a small group of individuals. But the boulders can have a large financial impact. There could be something about them that's high risk. It might have ongoing long-term financial support needed, both from a staffing and a licensing. That might require a complex operating model where we really need to talk about who's responsible for what before we buy it. And then items that could have large organizational change impact. So, in the technology pillar, you saw some of that today with Sue, but we have the data platform to support these BPSI initiatives. There'll be work done in there. There's some major system upgrades, so fare collection, Cubic, HASIS, which is the timekeeping system and dynamic route system. We're continuing on with our security improvements. If you remember last year, we made some big security purchases and we're continuing to mature those. And then the last box here is a modern service management tool. So what does that mean? It means when you submit a ticket or you call us for help that we have a modern way to move that forward. We have a very outdated system right now. So those are some of our major technology efforts. And then the last pillar is around workforce. And we have 4 items here. So one is this idea of creating a pipeline for entry-level IT jobs. And that is actually, Cassandra's group is leading that, and we're just following right along there. So they already had a really solid program with Transit for some technicians, and we'll be using that for network technicians with Summit Academy. So I'm excited about that. We have a big lift to hire 40 FTEs because we have open positions plus additional new headcount needed. Within IS, the leaders have prepared a skills assessment. So the life cycle now of a technology skill is down to 18 months or less. So when your college graduate shows up at your door, probably what they learned freshman year is not relevant anymore. So we have to be the kind of organization that knows how to reskill, upskill, and when we're hiring people to come in and help our teams with those skills. So we're working on that this year. And then another one is building some community, and that's where these photos came into play. We went to north, south, east, and west. The directors and I all went to a location and had our staff come and meet us for coffee, and we gave them a Met Council hat. It was very good. It was very cold those days, so the marketing material was very appreciated. But that's one of the things that we're working to do is build community. I'm not gonna read all of this, but
As long as it's not a test.
sometimes technology people, we're just on the next thing to fix or build because we really like to do that, right? But we don't stop and take a look at what all we've accomplished. Sue, sometimes we not Gretchen, we have accomplished a lot. We just stop worrying. But last year, at the end of the year, we had a meeting with all of our staff, and this was one of the handouts that the directors and I presented is we basically take this home, put it on your fridge. We want you to know how much you did for the council in 2024, and it was very well received. They were very excited to see that the directors, we really knew a lot of what they've done, and then obviously you can see the sheer volume of it is pretty impressive. So thank you. That's all.
So that is the last slide, and I just want to point out, as you may have noticed, there's overlap between the three pillars that we had talked about in the strategic plan. And what Gretchen talked about with IS work plan, I will tell you, every department within shared services at regional administration has put together a work plan that ties back to the overall strategic plan that we showed earlier. So we're getting to the point now, we're starting to talk about that as a group. How can we support each other to really get to that systems thinking? We're all a part of this to make sure we're delivering that as a division. We're inviting the divisions in monthly, so we're all meeting. We're going to talk about the unified recruitment plan, which that has never happened before in all my years here, where we actually sit down and talk about all the requisitions and the priority of that. Because with the growth that everyone knows about, we could not accomplish that without something like this.
That's right.
So the work that's been done has been outstanding. I want to thank everyone. I see a lot of the partners in the audience here, so thank everyone for that. And with that, Madam Chair and committee members, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
This is a proud moment. I mean, this is really, we're gonna mark this moment in Met Council history because I think it's a big turning point. And we're doing things, I just feel, more confident, I'm sure you all do. Sometimes digging into this, you guys must are just like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Yeah, oh no, never, me never.
We're cool.
I've said that, so, but in a good way, right? So, this is just really great. I know we've been asking for this for a while, but you gotta build it and get the right people around the table literally and put it together. And again, everybody in this room, leadership here, deserves a lot of credit. And I love ending a slide that has such small font that you can really read all of the things that have happened. And at a time too, when we didn't have all of the positions filled or even figured out. So, we're still in flux, but moving forward. And I would love to see, especially divisional work plans as you're kind of hitting some of those milestones throughout the year, to come back and just update us on where you're at. We're just bringing on so many more tools, systems, processes. We'll be bringing on people, so it'd be good to maybe get quarterly or whenever you think it's appropriate updates on the divisional work plans as it relates to the RA strategic plan. Councilmember Lilligren.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and really congratulations, Phil, everyone on this work. This is, I agree, kind of a momentous moment for Met Council, and then to hear Phil say things like developing a unified recruitment process, which hasn't existed before, right? So I just think that's really evidence of how important this is, and so thank you. And as a policymaker, I love stuff like this, getting the strategic plan, having a one-page strategic plan, Phil. That's not easy to do. And I know getting down to things like mission and values and things like that, that's a lot of work. And it's so useful, right, to helping us focus focus our work, so well done and congratulations. I do have one question about the workforce and you were talking specifically about, was it the 40 plus FTEs in IT? And I think this relates to creating a pipeline for the entry level positions, but it probably relates to a unified recruitment plan, not just throughout the regional administrator's office, but really the whole council. And I'm just wondering if you're prepared to, or if you can comment on how we're approaching barriers to employment here, and just, we often, in the Native community or in communities of color or others, there's these sort of standard reasons, common reasons why people have barriers to public sector employment, for example. So I'm just wondering, especially at an entry level effort, what kind of effort we're putting into addressing barriers.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilmember, Madam Chair. I think there's a few things that are going on. One that Gretchen alluded to, which is taking a look at our departments and figuring out where those entry points are and aren't. And that's important when we're bringing people in from a barriers of entry piece. Where can we bring them in where little to no experience is needed, and we can train them up into the staff that we're needing. We're also in the process of revamping our internship program to find ways for those to be places of entry for people, or for people to be able to develop the experience they need to go on to something else, somewhere else. And as we go into this year too, we're moving into a classification study where we're looking at all of our positions and the way that those are classified. And I think in doing that, it gives us an opportunity to look at that base entry point. Is there a paper ceiling that's there where we can provide different pathways in? Do we have an opportunity to build some other entry level positions that let people step in with little to no experience and we can train them? So we're trying to find multiple ways for us to continue to help build our own workforce, because the pipeline with low unemployment is challenging as it is.
Great, thanks.
I want to add one other thing. The pipeline program that we're working on in IT, they will come very, very green, but at the end of it, they will have a 2-year degree, which would allow them with the right experience to not only move up at the council, but have other opportunities outside the council, because that was very important to HR and IS that we helped them to that degree.
Great, thank you. Thanks for your work.
Chair Johnson, committee members, if I could just add to that, we had last year, as you know, a culture survey that was conducted across the entire council. And one of the themes that came out of that was that employees were looking for opportunities to grow. So we took that information, we developed some discussions around how do we create, as Cassandra was saying, how do we create these opportunities for people to grow? Where historically, maybe we were looking for a position that had X number of years of experience. It's becoming challenging in some areas to find that experience. So let's take a look at growing them internally. So a lot of that came from the culture survey. It's also a part of our business continuity discussion that Kathy Matter has led and I think presented a couple of meetings ago. Succession planning. How do we develop this path for people to grow, and how do we make sure we've got the knowledge that we retain within the council so that when someone retires, they can step in and fill that same kind of job that was done before.
Great, thanks. And I guess before I relinquish the floor here, just to really thank you, Madam Chair, for your leadership here, because I know getting to a point like this has been a vision of yours that you've expressed since you've taken the chair. So I just want to say congratulations to you as well.
Yeah, thanks to this whole group and Phil and the team. And I think again, bringing in the right people at the right time, and actually going through COVID too, that model that everybody had to figure out how to really step up and lead and wear multiple hats. I mean, it kind of feels that way now in a different sort of way. But yeah, I'm excited because in order to be what we need to be and be the best of what we know we can be, we have to have all of these systems in place to make sure that everything that faces our customers and our clients in the whole region, they don't get to see the internal workings, but if the internal workings aren't working, nothing's gonna work properly. And with the great challenges that we have before us, I'm more confident now than ever that Met Council's gonna lead and be a great example of it. So that we, maybe can help other organizations out there that haven't figured it out like we have because you guys bring some great knowledge from where you've come, and really helping us. And the only other thing I'd like to just quickly say is the 2-year degree that folks will receive, will they actually need 2 years to do that, or can we condense it into a time that works with their lives to do it sooner or later?
That would be Cassandra's expert that's helping us with that. He has partnerships with the community colleges in the area, so.
Okay.
So we'll work that out with
Okay,
them.
yeah, just making sure that, obviously, this can manage it in all of their lives, so they don't have to give up their, normal human things they need to do too, so. Yeah, and appreciate the work plan, love to get updates along the way, and, this is really great work, and again, if we haven't all read it, we'll keep that on our refrigerators as well. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who took time away from your regular workday to be with us here today. We appreciate everything you're doing. And that comes to the end, brings us to the end of our agenda. So without objection, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Actually, a little break.